Hello, I'm back again in the Loxley Valley. It's the 9th of February 2021. As you can see, we've had some snow, so it's quite nice down here. Well, it's always nice down here. But I want to talk on this video about how, if our appeal against Patrick Properties is successful, how we might be able to get the land back off them. I mean, ideally you would want to work with them, but I don't think they're the kind of company who are interested in working with the community. At least that's been the evidence so far. So I want to talk about how we might be able to get the land back off them, and then look to oh, we've got a lovely goldfinch there. Sorry. Just zoom in. That lovely little goldfinch. Can't zoom in anymore on my camera, I'm afraid. Yeah, so I want to talk about how we might be able to finance a development of the site. So I just want to show this map again. I've made a video showing this map anyway. This is just to repeat the kind of plan that I foresee for this site and that I would like to see happen. So you've got Loxley Road here, you've got the old Marshall site here, water treatment works, Rags West site, Rags Pond, Rags East site, or the lorry park as it is, Spur Motors there, farm there. So again, just to give a quick recap on what I would like to see. On this site here, I would like to see a kind of visitor attraction along the lines of the Butterfly House in Rotherham. Doesn't have to be like that, exactly like that, but that's the kind of template that I see for this site. So it would have educational facilities, it would improve the environment, you'd have a cafe on there, you'd have a shop selling goods, you'd have lots of things for families to do, etc, etc. Across from here would be the car park for it. Access would be down Storesbridge Lane here. Ideally, I'd like to see this, which is owned by somebody else, brought into the whole scheme, so that this lovely old Victorian house could be redeveloped as a boutique hotel with a restaurant attached, a little bit of car parking around it there, again access down this lane here. And then the two other sites are here and here, the Rags site. These will be accessed off Rowell Lane, which is just down here, just off the photo there. This dirt track would have to be made into a proper road. I believe that Patrick Properties do own that, so it's not the farms, it's Patrick Properties. So what I would like to see here is this area developed as a floodplain. This is kind of pretty much the lowest part of the land. You'd retain the brick building, which is this building here. You would lower the level of this land here and allow the river, which comes through, comes round here, I believe, if I can get my bearings right. So the river comes around here. So if you could take all those buildings away and lower that land, you could create a wetland wildlife area and a floodplain for this whole site. And then finally, to help fund that, so it doesn't rely on a huge amount of public funding, I would like to see about 60 to 70 homes built on this site here. They would be for sale. The average price would be £300,000, so bear that in mind. 70 houses at £300,000 is approximately £21 million. I would also like to see a nice row of terrace cottages, maybe 10 to 15 terrace cottages just there. South facing gardens onto the river. The gardens could drop down, again acting as a bit of a floodplain for the river there. Those could be reserved for local people, for low cost housing, who want to live in the area but can't afford to stay in the area. So you've got some social housing there. And as I've said before, this seems to be the ideal place if you're going to build any housing, because you've already got the row of terrace cottages here, you've got spare cars in the other garage there, you've got the bowling green there, you've got the red brick building, which would be great to turn that into like a village hall, a community centre, a little shop, maybe a little cafe in there, maybe a museum talking about the history of the Loxley Valley. So you've got the beginnings of a little hamlet there, and that's all that you would want. You wouldn't want any more houses than what you've got, than the 70 or so houses you've got there, and then the small number of terrace cottages there. The floodplain here, if done correctly, that would provide a good flood defence against this area flooding. You could also do some flood alleviation work on this site as well, just to reinforce that. So that's okay saying all that, but you know, unless Patrick Properties are prepared to do what we want them to do, or do what I want them to do, or do what somebody else wants them to do, it looks like we might have to somehow get the land back off them. So doing a little bit of research on the internet, it seems like this is the ideal situation for putting in a compulsory purchase order. So as you can see here, a compulsory purchase order is when the government, councils or utility companies in certain circumstances have a statutory right to buy your property or take a right over it. In order to exercise such rights, the body must meet set criteria laid down by statute. In particular, the authority must prove the purchase is in the public interest. Well, if us, the community, the local council, whoever it is, purchasing this land is not in the community interest, then I seriously don't know what is. Now, there's a load more information here, which I'm not going to spend time. I'm limited as to what I can put on this video. So there's a lot more information there that you might want to read or just do research yourself. And I don't think it's a particularly easy thing to do. I think you've got to go through a process, quite a lengthy process to do it. But basically, as I understand it, as long as the landowners get the value of their land back, in this case it would be the landowner rather than the property owner, but if the landowner or property owner get the value of their land back and a little bit extra depending on how long they've held that land for inflation or for costs of managing that land, and we know that Patrick Properties haven't exactly spent a lot on caring for the land or maintaining the land, then the council can quite legally put in a compulsory purchase order. And what I would like to see is, once that happens, if that can happen, again, is to set up some kind of charitable trust. Now, again, doing a little bit of research, it seems a good option for this kind of social enterprise would be to create something such as a community interest company. A CIC is a special type of limited company which exists to benefit the community rather than private shareholders. So to set up a CIC, you'll need a community interest statement. Well, the community interest statement could be along the lines of what I would be proposing for this site, that basically there will be some housing, there will be environmental improvements, there will be a floodplain created, there will be a visitor attraction, there will be a little boutique hotel, there would maybe be a pub here with some industrial units attached, etc., etc. So there will be a mixture of housing, of environmental improvements, of small commercial aspects, and of a visitor attraction, which are there to benefit the community. An asset lock, a legal promise stating that the company's assets will only be used for its social objectives and setting limits to the company to the money it can pay to shareholders. A constitution, so you can research what would be a good model for that. To get your company approved by the community interest company regulator, your application will automatically be sent to them, and it costs apparently £27. So it may be that there are other charitable organisations or ways of setting up a charitable trust that might be better depending on what we want to do with the site. But if we're looking to do something that is self-sustainable, a community interest company might be the best thing to do. So, for example, if the council were prepared to put in a compulsory purchase order to get this land back off Patrick Properties and pay them, say, Patrick Properties paid £1.6 million for the land. If the council were to say, right, okay, you've had this land for so many years, with inflation and with supposed money that you spent, we'll give you £2 million and walk away. We take the land back. It then gets put into a community interest company. Community interest company. So you then think, well, hold on, has the council got £2 million? Look at it this way. If the council accepts a planning proposal for 70 homes there with the average price of £300,000, and the development of other small businesses, including a visitor centre here, a little pub there, a car parking, so the council could take money from the car parking, business rates from a little hotel and restaurant there. This is an income for the council indefinitely for however long these establishments survive. And of course, housing will be the main source for council tax for the council. So what I'm saying here is that the council will get their money back at some point in the future. So it's a no-brainer from that perspective. Alternatively, what we could do is communities to raise £2 million. Now you might think, well, you know, could we do that? That's a lot of money. Well, if you think about it, not really. I don't earn a lot of money, but I wouldn't have a problem in going to a bank, interest rates are low, or alternatively, putting it on an 0% credit card, £1,000 to buy a share of this land. All that would need to happen is another 1,999 people who are prepared to buy into the scheme that I've proposed, or some other scheme if somebody wants to come up with an alternative scheme that they think they could finance, with the knowledge that you're not going to get your £1,000 back because the £1,000 is going to be used for that mission statement to develop this land, along the lines of what I'm proposing, then all I need is, or all anybody needs is another 1,999 people to buy a share of this land for £1,000, and you've got £2 million there. Alternatively, if the council allows this community interest company to be set up, and therefore we hire a builder to build those properties with the average price of £300,000, ranging from £200,000 to £400,000, making a total of £21 million. Talking to builders, they usually say it costs about a third the price of a house to build it than what it actually goes for sale. So it means that if you spend £7 million to pay a builder to build 70 houses, average price £300,000, it means that you're making £14 million profit. That profit is then in that community investment trust, community investment company, that £14 million, or at least a large part of that £14 million, which you can then use to develop the other commercial aspects. First and foremost, the housing here for rent. Again, any rent coming from that housing could be put into the community interest company. Rent from that boutique hotel and restaurant, rent from this pub and business units here, rent from this visitor attraction here. Maybe even money from the car parking. Again, that could be something that we could discuss with the council, whether the council want the car parking money, etc., etc. Then all that money goes into that trust and is only there to be spent on maintaining this area. Or what you could actually do, or developing this area, at least developing it so that it's primed for other businesses to come in. And if that's successful, and you've got a regular income coming in from all these little businesses that are around here, and the housing here, if and when any of this land should come up for sale at some point in the future, you can actually buy this land and put it into the trust to keep it as green belt in perpetuity. So instead of slowly but surely all this land being built on for housing, you will get this land into trust so that it's maintained as greenbelt, because that would be part of the mission statement. Again, just to bring that back. A constitution or a community interest statement explaining what your business plans to do. The constitution. So that the land then gets locked as greenbelt in perpetuity. And therefore, it's not a drain on local councils. We're not going cap in hand to the government for money to maintain this floodplain here, this wetland wildlife area, or any other maintenance facilities, maintenance that might need to happen to any of the facilities on here. It's actually self-funding. And that seems to be what this community interest company is set up for. It's set up, it seems to be set up as a system by which it's like a self-maintaining financial system for a local community. So if you can make money from renting out the little village hall here, if that's developed, I'd say the rent from these houses here, if it's low-cost housing here, what, £350 a month rent is that? I don't know what low-cost housing in Sheffield, what the rent would be. But 10 cottages at, so let's say £400 a month. That might be a little bit much, I don't know. I'm just doing it for ease of maths. £400, 10 cottages, that's £4,000 a month. Over 10 months, that's £40,000. Over 12 months, that's £48,000, if my maths is right. That's £48,000 a year rent from just those 10 cottages. What about rent from this building here? Again, as long as that can be brought into this whole scheme. Rent from the pub here. It could be a family-orientated community pub, where families who come for a day out here, if they don't want to eat in the cafe on site, they can, have a meal in the pub there. You've got the business units attached. One of those business units attached to the pub could be a microbrewery. I think further down the valley, you've got the Wisewood Inn. You've got Loxley Breweries, which is underneath the Wisewood Inn. So at some point, maybe Loxley Breweries want to expand, so they could expand, take out this pub here, rent this pub out, rent a business unit attached. We can negotiate as a community interest company. We could, negotiate a very low rent. We could set the rent at whatever level we want to set it at, to make sure that you have companies that are in here that are sustainable, that are going to be able to survive. So the options are multifaceted. Now, these proposals, there are people obviously who really, I think, would like to see that the whole site, that and all this here, turned into something like Oldmore or Potterick Car or whatever. And I think I've said it on other videos. That's, I wouldn't have a big problem with that. I just think we have an opportunity here of doing a whole lot more than just creating, what will be undoubtedly a fantastic wildlife habitat. But we can create a wildlife habitat such as here and here with environmental improvements, and also here, but also create some housing and also create some jobs. and create an income for the community interest company, and create an income for the council so that they get some council tax in and some business rates in. So that's, I know there's a lot of information there, but I just wanted to make that video about how I foresee this site being developed if the appeal in April goes our way. And I think what I'm proposing is the best for everybody, not just the best for the environment. I think it's the best for the community because it provides some economic stimulus, provides some jobs, provides a few small businesses, provides some housing, and potentially over time it could help to lock up the surrounding green belt, as if the money comes in from these developments here, we then can buy pockets of this land to keep them as green belt in perpetuity, because that would be the mission statement of the community interest company. There's already been discussion, local community out at Meadowhead tried to buy a woodland, and tried to raise money. This is what we need to do, I think, to make sure that we keep as much of this as green belt as possible. But where we have got brown belt is to develop the brown belt in the most appropriate way possible. And that, as I said, down here, I think, would mean some traditional style, nicely designed housing that sits in the valley as comfortably as possible and isn't an overdevelopment. So anyway, that's nearly 22 minutes. So I think I've said all that I want to say on that. Let's hope we can do something like what I've suggested in the coming months, when hopefully we've fought off Patrick Properties. And by the way, if anybody hasn't donated yet to the fund to get a planning expert, if you go on the Friends of the Loxley Valley website, I think we've got $8,000 in there now. We're looking to raise funds, £15,000. So if anybody can help on that, that'd be fantastic. And if we just look out in this beautiful scene in the beautiful Loxley Valley and see it's snowing again. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. Bye for now.